Hi, Mom.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
How's life?
How's life?
Yeah.
You got about 3 weeks to talk on the phone?
Actually, yes, I do. Even
Oh gosh. Okay.
at least till April 30th, right?
Till April 30th? What happens then?
Well, that's the latest lockdown schedule, right?
Oh,
They extended
what,
it. What's today? The
wait,
31st. Today is March 31st.
yeah.
So we have one full month left. Uh, at least one full month of government suggested quarantining in place, but it's expected to go longer than that. So I
Is
got
that what
till
they're
April.
saying?
I got till April 30th. If you want to talk my ear off.
We all get a get out of jail free card on April 30th? Maybe. You still there?
I'm here.
Oh, okay. I thought I heard you hang up.
No, nope. I'm
So,
I'm testing out. So I am going to. I went to my. I don't know if you probably don't know this, but like when you have a Gmail account, you can go to YouTube and you automatically have your own channel, like your own YouTube
oh,
channel, because I guess Google owns YouTube. So I went to my email account and signed up for live streaming. I don't know if you call it signing up. I just when you go into your YouTube channel, you are allowed to live stream. But if you've never live streamed before, they have to verify that you're not a robot. So you click a button, and then they have you enter your phone number, and they'll send a code to that number. And I did all that, but it's 24 hours before you can go live. So we'll test
oh,
that.
okay.
Should test that tomorrow or the day after. Try the live streaming.
Uh-huh.
For now,
Okay.
I'm attempting to. Um, I'm back into the iMovie app recording, and we'll see if it freezes up again. So I also thought, rather than just interviewing you about what happened to you,
Uh-huh.
just treat this like a normal phone call. Just um,
Oh, okay.
I'll have a little bit of structure, but it should probably develop over time. So
Yeah.
this is being recorded for your information.
Oh, okay. Okay.
If that changes the way you talk, then so be it.
Okay. We're not being recorded right now.
Huh?
Are we being recorded right now?
Yes.
Okay. Were you hoping I wouldn't ask that question?
No, it's all right.
Well, I'm Miracle Mom, and he is Michael.
That's us. Welcome to Miracle Mom and Michael, the show
Do,
where it's just a phone call.
do you know what the name Michael means?
Michael
Yes.
in Hebrew.
Yes.
Here's my question: did you know what it meant before you named me that?
No, I didn't name you that. Your father named you that?
Oh
You know
yeah.
why your father named you that?
Oh yeah.
Why?
Because of the guy who wrote the song Heidi Ho, right? Isn't that the song he wrote?
That was one of the songs he wrote. Your father, as you know, is a diehard music lover,
Mm-hmm.
mainly of, rock and roll and blues and that sort of thing. So when you were born, one of his favorite artists was Lee Michaels.
Mm-hmm. So now
And
everybody knows my middle name.
Michael Michaels.
I know.
So, we were trying to make a decision about what to name you, and we didn't get in any arguments or anything like that, but we went around and around and around, And, he said, well, if I had my way and you weren't involved, I would name him Michael after Lee Michaels. So I wanted to stop the arguing about it and said, fine, go ahead. So you're Michael.
Oh my gosh.
But here's what he didn't know. He didn't know what he was doing at the time, because the name Michael means who is like God.
With a question mark at the end.
No.
Yeah, it's a question.
Is it a question?
Yep. It's a rhetorical question, basically. Who is like God? In other words, no one.
Right. Okay. Anyway, I just wanted to share that little bit of information.
Well, thank you. I just hope my my iMovie app doesn't freeze up again this time, because that was a good story that I've never heard. I mean, I did know who I was named after, but I didn't realize it was a fight.
Well, I use the word fight. You know your father. You don't fight with him.
Right.
You eventually just shut up and let him keep going. Is what you do with him. So I shut up. I said, okay, fine. Michael it is.
There you go. And you didn't say, we already have a Michelle.
No, I didn't.
You realize in French,
Interestingly enough.
Both of our kids have the same name now.
Oh gosh, boy, the memories. Yep, that's that story.
Well, here's what I'm thinking for our daily conversation. I am going to come up with one or two, like, latest updates, like what's going on in the world.
Okay.
And I'll share them with you. Maybe read excerpts out of a news article or something and get your thoughts. And if you like, maybe do the same. Maybe go back through my previous podcasts and anything we haven't really discussed yet. Maybe one of the topics that piques your interest, and we could bring it up. So we'll have 2 to 3 different things to discuss each day. And I think that would be, for me, it's like I'm interested to hear if you've heard of some of the latest stuff, and for on your part, I'm just curious to hear what's rattling around in your brain as well.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I'll just obviously lead the discussion, etc. But that's what I'm thinking for now.
Okay. That sounds good. I think I'll be, a little more relaxed that way.
Oh yeah. Just a normal conversation.
Right.
So on that note, I do have. There's been all kinds of positives coming out of the state of the world today.
Right.
Right. Like it's horrible that a brand new virus is now ravaging through the global population, but the worst thing is economies tanking, right? Like people dying is awful, but economies tanking leads to more death. So it's a compounding thing, but there are a bunch of good things. For example, like one of the things that I'm sure you're aware of is the satellite images of carbon emissions over China. Have you seen that?
I haven't seen a photo, but I do remember some discussion going on, not over China, but over the United States alone.
Well,
because, traffic has come to a stop, literally.
Right. And so it's true, but forever, anybody who's paying attention to what's really going on, there's environmentalism is important, but some people take it to an extreme and they want to shut down industry and they want to shut down economies as a result. Like, we're killing the planet by making iPhones.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You make your iPhones and we kill the planet. But the biggest hurdle has always been getting rogue nations to comply. Like
Yeah.
we can reduce our carbon emissions, and we have been. The United States has been doing it,
Right.
but the biggest offenders have been China and India. So one
Right.
of the things that has resulted is China shut down all their industry, and literally the heat map. If you look over China, uh, 2 months ago or 3 months ago, before they shut down, it was normal. They're cranking out all the CO2 like crazy, and now you look at a heat map, and there's nothing. Like, so it's been shut off. And so I was having a discussion with a friend of mine yesterday. It's like it's going to be interesting to see what all the models that like the models that predict what what the CO2 levels will be and how it'll affect the environment. And now we have an actual test
Yeah.
sample that we didn't expect we would have so suddenly, right? They've been projecting shutting down carbon emissions over the next 10, 20, 30 years. Well, all of a sudden we have a huge drop in carbon emissions. And so it'll be interesting to see what the the data bears out.
And they'll collect that data over India too.
Right. Over the whole entire globe, because all pretty
Yeah.
much all industry has come to a screeching halt
Right.
for a
Right.
while. But that's actually not the topic I wanted to talk about. That's just an example of some of the
Yeah.
potential positives. Like, at least the information we're going to get is valuable that we could never have gotten any other way. I mean, how are you going to get economies and industries to shut down and tank their own economies in the process? Well,
Yeah.
this this global pandemic did it. Here's another one that I just read today. So, one of the problems everyone is facing is the dependence on China for drugs, for chemicals, for uh, elements like rare earth elements, even for like lithium batteries and stuff you need for computers and phones. And so
Right.
it turns out all of the drug cartels in South America are not getting the chemicals they need to make heroin, methamphetamine, and fentanyl.
See, these are the things that need to be put in front of
Everyone.
the world, not
Yeah.
just our nation. These things, the good things that are resulting, need to become the focus. And like you said, the economy, could collapse. But even in that, we don't know what good could come out of it. It's Romans 8:28.
Oh yeah. That's kind of my life's verse as of late. It just keeps coming back. What does that say, Mom?
All things work together for good to them that love God and are the called according to his purpose.
Called according to his purposes, right?
Yeah.
this thing about
So,
this thing about China, or about the drug cartels not getting the things they need to produce the poisons that they've been pumping into the world. Well, it also shows China's further complicity. Like, China is the one who's been supplying them with the things that they need to send drugs that kill people. So,
exactly. And you know what else President Trump did?
oh, there it is.
That's
You said
relevant.
it. You said it on the podcast. That word.
What did I say?
You said a word that sends a bunch of people into a frenzy as soon as they hear it.
My memory's not good.
Trump.
Oh, Trump. Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, you know what he did? This is relative to your comment that you just made. Trump indicted the head of the drug cartel in Venezuela.
That's right. I did. I read that. When did that
He
happen?
indicted him.
That was recent,
And
wasn't it?
he's, yeah, within the last couple of weeks. He announced it himself in one of his briefings. And then when he announced it, I caught it right away. And then my next thought was, nobody's going to understand the significance of this. You know what I mean? In
Seems
fact,
to
the
be. Seems.
news media reported, why would President Trump announce something like that at a moment like this? See, people are not connecting the dots.
Well, he's been very, very active, doing a lot of things that people aren't paying attention to, and
Yeah.
when when people are so fixated on the negatives, like the things that they don't like about him, or the things that there's plenty of legitimate complaints, but he's also consulting with a lot of people and
Oh, yeah.
doing things that, I mean, we just had a universal, like, it was the Senate that voted 96 to nothing to pass this resolution. Like, that kind of bipartisanship hasn't been seen in the government in quite some time. And, that's, he's involved. Like, this isn't just the Senate and the House of Representatives. It's all
Right.
branches of government coming together, and that's the good coming out of this. And so people will still fixate on one side or the other, but
Yeah.
history will bear out. I mean, here's a president and a country that just got faced with the worst catastrophe the world has ever faced. So it's like, okay,
Right.
is there any slack you can cut to a guy who's facing something nobody's ever faced before? So,
Yeah.
um, I'm gonna go another few minutes. I want to share one other little story with you.
Sure.
Uh, the town I live in, there's a guy who runs a pub, an Irish pub, and he's a good Irish Catholic, and he's a friend of mine, and he knows the project that I'm working on. He's familiar with it, and he's an actor. He's a former. I don't know if anybody's ever a former actor, but he's an actor. You'd probably recognize him from a bunch of stuff. He's not like an A-list actor, but he's been in some stuff, and but he's got a big family and decided to start an Irish pub, and that's his business. Well, St. Patrick's Day is the most important day of the year for every Irish pub, right? St. Patrick's
Of
Day. That's
course.
and you gear everything towards that. Well, March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, so roughly 2 weeks ago, or exactly 2 weeks ago, um, the day before, March 16th, on a Monday, the state of California issued the health emergency. It's when the dominoes started falling, when countries and states started shutting things down. That was one of the milestones here, where that was one of the first issuances of no public gatherings. That was the day before his biggest day of the year, and so this poor guy, I just happened to head over there just to talk to him about my project, and I show up as the police are showing up. I didn't know where the police were going. I just saw a couple police officers down the street, and I walked around to the back of his pub. I got there just
Mm-hmm.
in time for he had just gotten there from talking to the police, and they were telling him to shut down, and he was complaining. He's like, "You can't shut me down," and this poor guy just got caught in the worst timing possible. Like, his whole
Yeah.
livelihood gets shut down on the biggest day of the year, and he's just
Frantic.
he's a good guy, but it's just a bad look, when all these other
Yeah.
businesses are shutting down, and he's the one place in town that's had a nightlife. Like, ours, we have a sleepy little town, and his pub has been the place where people can go when they want to go out and hang out. It's not a,
Yeah.
well, so the local newspaper just put out an article about it, and he was also written up. I can't think. I don't know if it was the L.A. Times or one of the bigger papers, but it's like it. A lot of people are complaining. People walking by saying, "How can you do this? This is a basically a breeding ground for this virus, and if it spreads, it's because of what these kinds of events." And that's what we're seeing: these big public events and sudden outbreaks within a few weeks after, because of the gestation of the virus, etc. So, but I think over time, people will look back and see how he was just caught by something that was bigger than he realized. You know, and it was just weird that I would happen to be there right in the middle. It just literally just happened to be in the middle of it.
You didn't talk to him, or
I
did you
did.
talk? Oh, you
Actually,
did.
I had seen him the day before, and I was I had gone in the pub, but I was feeling, like I don't want to be in here. I've been super paranoid from the beginning,
Yeah.
overreacting and over cautious, and for the sake of my family, etc. But I went in to talk to him the day before, and he didn't have time to talk. So I came the next day, on his busiest day of the year, in the afternoon. He went ahead and opened up, even after the police had talked to him, and then they had to come back later in the evening to shut it down. So
Have you talked to him since?
I did. I went over there a couple days later, just telling him. He was still kind of fuming about the law. Like, they have no legal right to do this. And I emphasized to him, we are essentially in a wartime footing. Like,
Yeah.
the country just changed, and short of martial law, I mean, that's the worst case scenario, but that
Yeah.
may be coming. Martial law supersedes every other law. And so I told
Right.
him, social stigmatizing and social shaming, a lot of us are frustrated about that, but there are good reasons to socially shame. The only good reason to socially shame is when somebody's doing something wrong. You should shame those people. And he was doing what was wrong at the time. Poor guy. So I said, you're a pillar in this community. You're valuable. We all consider you an important part of this community. So I just encouraged him and said, you know, maybe talk to the paper and just maybe an apology. And then I took off. I'm just gonna leave it there,
Yeah.
not get in an argument with him, and we'll see what happens. I just think over time, he'll be forgiven. But man, it was a really, really tough time for him to shut his business down. He's 11 kids,
Oh, wow.
so.
Well, it's times like this. This is profound.
Mm-hmm.
But even when it comes down to our personal lives, when we're faced with a genuine crisis, we react first. We react in the flesh. And I have to confess, even being a Christian, my first response is not, oh, what's the good that can come out of this, Lord?
Right.
Help me. That is not my first reaction. And I sit here and I think, I'm not in a panic and I'm not in fear, because I know God's in control. But if this escalates to the point where I am suddenly notified because of the economy, this is just an example.
Mm-hmm.
What if the government announces all Social Security benefits will be denied, blah, blah, blah? I will be in a panic.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
But also, you have your oldest child nearby.
Oh, right.
Right? So
I guess my point is, even I am learning in this situation. Should something like that happen, where do I reach out? Who do I reach out to if I need to?
right.
And God has put people in my life who I know will help me.
Amen. All right, Mom. On that note, I'm going to stop this recording before it freezes.
Okay.
I think this is good. A good test. I'll call you tomorrow.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good, honey.
Love you. Say bye,
Okay.
Mom.
Love you too.
Bye, Mom.
Bye, Mom.